once you understand that you already believe that emotional stimuli, fear, grief, and overwhelm in this particular situation lead to physical symptoms, headache, loss of appetite, stomach upset, then I'm in, because it's we live in a mind-body system. And so that's where we begin. We begin with this is not new, and we begin with chronic pain is not actually an epidemic of systemic problems. What chronic pain is an epidemic of fear and meaning.
Hi, I'm Tamara, and this is TELUS Talks with Tamara Taggart. Chronic pain can drain your joy, freedom, and energy. Psychotherapist and author Nicole J. Sachs knows this firsthand. In her new book called Mind Your Body, she shares how repressed emotions and a dysregulated nervous system can fuel everything from back pain to anxiety. We discuss tools like her JournalSpeak method and how they can bring healing. I hope you enjoy the conversation. This podcast is brought to you by TELUS Smart Home Security. Secure, simplify, and easily monitor your home from anywhere using the Smart Home Security app. Visit TELUS.com/smarthome-security to learn more about Canada's most trusted security provider. Hi, Nicole. It is so good to see you.
I'm thrilled to be here.
So your new book is called Mind Your Body, a revolutionary program to release chronic pain and anxiety. You know, I'm so excited about this, but I need to ask you this right off the top. How do you define chronic pain? What is chronic pain?
It's okay. So I could grab the universally medically understood diagnosis, which it's pain for 3 months or more that happens on more days than not, and so that's fine, and that does literally define chronic pain. But what I really want to say about chronic anything, because I want to go in right out of the gate by saying, whether you identify as a person who's in chronic pain or not, we are all in chronic something, right? Like there's no cure for the human condition. So maybe your energy level is low, or you're just so irritable with your children, or, you're constantly anxious, or you're up at night with thoughts rolling around in your head, or, et cetera, et cetera. So it might be manifesting in your body like migraines, fibromyalgia, back, neck, shoulder pain, irritable bowel, skin disorders, autoimmune diseases. So it could. Or it could just be that nagging feeling of like, life is less beautiful than I want it to be. I'm constantly feeling like, what's it all for? So it's really, it's kind of everyone. And when we get into the brain science, it makes it so clear. But essentially what chronic pain is are you discontent in a way that is stealing your energy, that is renting real estate in your head, that is, continuing to distract you from the things that you value and you label important?
When I hear chronic pain, and I mean, you described so many things there that I think anyone listening will go, yes, 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 yes. Because I always thought chronic pain was something really bad, really horrible, really awful, that's so painful that you cannot leave your house and you're in it 24/7 all the time, and it never goes away. So, and maybe that's a way of sort of protecting oneself from going, oh, that's not me. I don't need to worry about chronic pain, if you will.
First of all, I've been doing this work for over 25 years, and it is like that a lot of times. I mean, especially back in the day when I first became public and I started my podcast. Yeah, I mean, a lot of people would write to me and they'd say, I've been bedbound for a year, I've been housebound for years, I'm on disability for years. So that is for sure a thing. But, especially in the last few years that, long COVID, oh my goodness, long COVID. I mean, there are it's just epidemic around the globe of people in significant, whether it be symptoms, fatigue, pain, neuropathy, inflammation, so however you want to describe it, it is much broader than you might think. And actually, if you can just pause for a moment and soften your resistance to whatever it is that has people labeling it, something other than me, it could be a moment of profound shift in your life.
Yeah. And well, reading your book, this is what I've discovered. It's understanding how we have emotions and maybe we have unprocessed trauma, right? Because that's another word that comes up a lot lately is trauma. And how our brain can, if I'm getting this right, create like physical symptoms so that we don't have to deal with the emotional. Am I making sense?
You absolutely are making sense. And I think a really great way into this conversation for people who aren't familiar is to explain that what I'm teaching you, you 100% already believe and experience every single day. So, my great example is if I'm lecturing to a room of 1,000 people, I could say, raise your hand if you've ever had an overwhelming, stressful day and gotten a headache. And there are few people where their hands are down. Almost every hand in the room goes up. And I go, okay, okay, okay. Keep your hand up if you ran to the ER that night for a CT scan of your brain because you had a brain tumor. You thought you had a brain tumor. And of course, everybody laughs and they put their hands down because most people in our society, if they have a headache, are willing at the very least to say, yeah, I've been super stressed, or it's been a lot lately, or oh my God, if everybody wouldn't, won't stop screaming, or whatever it is. They're not worried about a physical abnormality in their body. They might be worried about the way their body is responding to these stresses, these physical and emotional stresses, but they don't think they're dying. And so, I'd follow that up with saying, who's ever heard of somebody gotten broken up with, a relationship, and they lose their appetite? Every hand goes up. Do you think there's something wrong? Do they need an upper GI of their stomach? Everyone laughs. Who's ever heard of a comedian who's about to jump on stage and goes to the bathroom and throws up? Do you think he just got the stomach virus just then? And so we play with it because once you understand that you already believe that emotional stimuli, fear, grief, and overwhelm in this particular situation lead to physical symptoms, headache, loss of appetite, stomach upset, then I'm in because we live in a mind body system. And so that's where we begin. We begin with this is not new. And we begin with chronic pain is not actually an epidemic of systemic problems. What chronic pain is an epidemic of fear and meaning because we don't know what's happening in our bodies and we are desperately trying to seek it out. But if you slow down for a moment and say, oh, I see, what happens to me or any human being if they are moved or they are sad? Literally, water falls out of your face, right? An emotional stimulus that causes a physical reaction. So we kind of stop with all that extra analysis and I say, now let me teach you what's happening when you're in chronic conditions.
Wow. Okay. So, yeah. How did you, I mean, I know because I've read your book, but how did you get into what led you to this work? Because you have your own story.
I do. And I will make it as short as possible because that story alone could be a whole podcast. But in a nutshell, when I was 19, my back went out so badly that my parents had to physically collect me from college and bring me home. And I went through all the tests as any responsible parent does, MRIs, x-rays, orthopedic surgery consults. And I actually have a very significant physical abnormality in my lower spine. I have a structural abnormality. It's called spondylolisthesis. And apparently my case is dramatic enough that the doctors were very concerned and they said, well, obviously this abnormality is causing your pain. So we're not going to recommend spinal fusion surgery yet because you're 19 and otherwise healthy. So here's all you need to do. No more sports, no more travel, no more exercise, no more riding in the car for more than an hour because it's very destabilizing, the bumps, and specific sleeping positions. And the likelihood that you will carry a biological child is slim to none because it would be such great pressure and stress on your spine. So this was at 19, quite a serious thing to be told. And as I moved through my life, I finished my undergraduate work in psychology. I got my graduate work. I was studying to be a psychotherapist. And I just became open to the world of mind-body medicine through the lens of Dr. John Sarno. If anyone's heard of Sarno, he was my mentor. He was my colleague. And when he was in the last years of his life, he really handed me the torch and he said, go and make sure that people understand the power that they have to heal themselves. And so that's been my imperative. And, the kicker to the story is I do have that abnormality. If I took an MRI today, it would show up on film. And it is exactly as severe. I still see orthopedic surgeons get a little uneasy when they have to talk to me. And it was never the reason for my pain. I understood the mind-body medicine. I did the work to regulate my nervous system, which of course is all my work. And I had 3 children. I exercised till the day they were born. I can run 5 miles. I'm 53. I do everything. I mean, it's a normal abnormality. We all look different on the outside and we all look different on the inside. And it comes as a great surprise to people. But I'm going to say this with my hand to God. Bulging discs do not cause pain. Spondylolisthesis does not cause pain. Migraines, fibromyalgia, all these findings that are so painful and life-stopping that have no way of like diagnosing them on paper can be reversed completely. And on and on and on, because this is now, like I said, 25 years into it. And as you know, because you read the book, the end of every chapter is somebody else's story in their own words. Like, don't take it from me. Listen to like the hundreds of episodes of people talking about it on the podcast. Like, this is neuroscience and it's real.
So what do you say to people who say, well, this sounds kind of woohoo. Like, of course your pain comes from your spine. Of course it does, Nicole. It's like, it's right there for everybody to see.
I have a saying in my work, and it is life is a choice between what hurts and what hurts worse. And although that sounds negative on its face, it's actually a tremendous relief. Because when you realize that you actually have the power to take a look at the landscape of your life and figure out where everything in your life you choose, but there's a side effect. So like the joke of it is, it ranges all the way from whether to have that donut to whether to have that child, right? Like everything in life hurts because why? Because having a child breaks your heart all the time and it makes you feel so full of love you can't breathe, and it makes you so reflective of your own fallibilities and all that stuff. And to me, it would hurt so much worse not to have them. So I live with the excruciating pain of being a mother. And like, that's what everything is. So when you say, what about someone who says, Nicole, that sounds really woo-woo? What I'll say is, with all the love in my heart, this is your life. This is your life. You have a choice how to look at it. Yeah, I know how it sounds. I agree. It sounds wacky. And there are things you know about the functioning of the human brain, about why signals continue to fire when they're no longer necessary. There are things to learn. And the bar of all progress is being unwilling to listen. So I just say, what's it worth, right? Like, replace your fear or your skepticism with curiosity and just come sit by me. And afterward, if you think this is like the nutsest thing ever, my work has a 100% misery back guarantee. Like anything you lived, like take it and run. Like I am not here to sell you anything. I'm here with an invitation that you might be living in the hurts worse, and I'm not sure.
Wow. Yes. So JournalSpeak is, this is your tool. This is what you teach. So tell us what that is.
So if you think about a stool with 3 legs, there are 3 legs of the stool of my work. Believe, do the work, and patience and kindness for yourself. And before you, by the way, negate the 3rd leg, give me a second. So the first is believe. And essentially, Dr. Sarno used to say, my prescription is knowledge. Same. So under the umbrella of belief, that's why I wrote the book. It's just like an instruction manual to doing this. You have to understand the brain science. You have to understand why, even though it wouldn't make logical sense, maybe given the Western medical model, why you could be inflamed. Oh, and that's another thing that's super important. The pain is not in your head. None of it. You are not making it up. You're not sensitive. You're not overly, hysterical. All of that, you're not at fault. All of that stuff is really a barrier to entry with this. The pain is exactly the pain, meaning if I am having horrible shoulder pain, and that shoulder pain is due to muscle constriction, spasm, and inflammation, right? It's happening. Like, I'm not saying that the pain I'm describing is different than any pain you've ever heard described. The question is, why is it happening? Why does the brain continue to send those signals of inflammation? Because truth be told, if you cut off your head, you can't feel anything, good or bad. You need your brain. The human brain is the central, command of the human body. So pain is actually not technically in your body. Pain is in your brain, and it gets sent and you experience it through your body. And so that's like a place that most people need to start, because when you educate yourself on it, then you can understand why my tools work. Because if we have an emotional reservoir inside of us, like, let's just do a quick little visualization. So if you picture a science beaker, clear science beaker inside of you, and what it contains is all of the grief, shame, fear, to the point of terror, despair, all of those big, difficult feelings that the human being cannot feel in their entirety, because our nervous system is here to protect us, right? You don't put your hand on a hot stove and decide whether or not to take it off. It's a reflex. We are protected, and that's why the human animal has thrived for all these millennia. So, same thing happens when these feelings that your brain and your nervous system don't know how to solve for, because they're complex, and the human brain, it seeks math, it likes to solve for a problem. When they start to rise, when there's too much in that reservoir, your nervous system goes into fight or flight. It goes into fight or flight because a predator has been detected and they need to protect you. This is the way the human body functions. And so when we are in a state of fight or flight, the brain looks for a place to protect us, and pain by its very nature is protective. So let's talk about why. Back in the day, before there were antibiotics or proper, cleaning materials for our skin, if you cut yourself and you didn't feel the pain and you didn't attend to that, you might become septic and die. Our pain is an alert. Our pain is like an alarm system that says, attend to me. Now, with a cut, it's easy. You clean it out, maybe you need stitches, maybe you need whatever, it's bandages, simple. But what about your relationship with your mother, right? Like, how do we solve for that? What about your disappointment about not being what you thought you'd be at the age of 40? What about your son who is just so depressed, and you wake up every day with such a despairing feeling like, well, I don't know how to help him? What about those predators? What about those injuries? The brain does not know how to solve for that. It's complex. And so what it does is it sends something that's going to take you out of that. So if you're about to go to your mom's for dinner on a Sunday night with everybody, and she's just going to do that thing she always does, all of a sudden you get a migraine. The brain has sent signals of inflammation, you get a migraine. Now you're in bed, you canceled, you send your family off without you. But are you to blame? No, you didn't cancel. You're sick. And if people can understand that this is safe in the unsafest way, if people can understand that there are tools to circumvent this process and have it stop protecting you in that way, that's the beginning of a really transformed life.
That was so beautifully explained. That makes like 10 out of 10 sense. Yes. I don't think there's anybody listening that hasn't had that happen. Maybe where, you're about to do something and something, I can't go. My stomach is bothering me. I can't go. I have a terrible headache. I can't go. Wow.
And you don't want that life, especially when it becomes chronic, but you don't know how to unchoose it because your brain and your nervous system are choosing it for you. And I realize in all of this, explanation, I didn't answer your question. So what JournalSpeak does as a tool is it puts a ladle in the reservoir each day and it dumps it out. You are getting into those places. It's a roadmap to the places that you don't know how to feel, you don't know that you need to feel. And by doing the practice regularly, the pain signals stop firing.
Yes, I get it. It makes sense. So with mind your body, you have your journal speak. So basically you are journaling, right? And you are throwing it all up on that page. Is that what you're doing every day?
So, I mean, that I just developed JournalSpeak so many years ago. I honestly, if I had to go back and do it again, I probably wouldn't put journal in the title. And I'll tell you why, because people are very confused about JournalSpeak and they think like, first of all, journaling, are you kidding me? Like that's going to get rid of my chronic fibromyalgia. Like, so I get that, by the way. Where you are, I'm there with you. And the second is that it's really not anything like regular journaling. So that's a little caveat. But essentially what JournalSpeak is it's a 30-minute a day practice, 20 minutes of proper JournalSpeak and 10 minutes of any sort of self-affirming meditation that builds a bridge between your practice and the rest of your day, or the practice and your sleep, or whatever it is, so you can feel regulated. And the JournalSpeak itself, there's a method to it. So JournalSpeak alone, it's very hard to explain because it requires the three legs of the stool, because a stool cannot stand without three legs. But in short, it is an unbridled rant. It is a directed and focused, unbridled rant that could come in the form of anger, grief. It could come in the form of vulnerability. Like in my JournalSpeak before, I have been so pathetic, like in a way that I would never want anybody to hear, but I need it. It's giving a voice to the stuff inside of this reservoir that continues to boil up and cause your symptom to send these protective signals. And so essentially, what happens when you learn the language? So I often say it's like learning to speak a foreign language, right? So you start learning the language of JournalSpeak. You start putting it down on the page. When the timer goes off at 20 minutes, you would delete it. You erase it. If you're typing, you delete. If you're writing, you rip it up. It's like blowing your nose in a tissue. We are getting something out. This is not to be reread. This is to allow for a voice that has not ever had an outlet. And it's learning that voice, it's using it, and then it's deleting it. You should know that JournalSpeak does not stay true. People have to say very extreme things if they occur to them in order to work it out. I say extreme things sometimes like, I quit, right? I quit. I'm never doing this again. I'm done. I'm literally done with whatever it is. And then I start to investigate. Am I though? What is this? What's happening? Who's speaking? Right? And this is where your mention of trauma comes in. Who's speaking? Is it the voice and the energy that kept me safe when I was 10, and what was going on was so out of my control that I needed a defense mechanism. I needed an outer shell, and so I don't even consider that, or I don't even think about it, or I just say, especially with women, people pleasing, perfectionism. Oh, don't worry. I got it. Don't worry about me. What do you want? What do you need? Like, this is hugely causing chronic pain and anxiety in our society. And like, when I say chronic anxiety, I am talking about like, we are so anxious. We are so neurotic. It is so much more than we need to be, because we don't know it's not just who we are. Like, I used to think I'm just an anxious person. I'm just going to spin out. I'm going to be up all night with insomnia. Never happens to me anymore that I've understood this practice and done it. So essentially, you are in charge of regulating your nervous system. You just need to learn how.
Yes. Okay. So that's the key right there. You write it and you toss it. You write it and you rip it up. You write it and you delete it, whatever it is. Because I really do think that for a lot of people, especially if you're an anxious person, speaking on behalf of a friend, wink, wink, you think about writing all your things down and then you're like, oh gosh, I don't want to die and then have somebody read this. Like that will stop me from writing.
Well, okay, totally. And that's why I say it's like learning a foreign language, because if you don't speak journal speak, you're not going to understand it. A, and even if you do, I cannot explain to you let's see, how old am I? If I've done 20 years of journal speak, let's just put a round number to it. I would literally tell you that probably 10% of it is even true. It's understanding that when you have a 5-year-old and they are interested in having a cookie before dinner, I hate you, you're the meanest mommy, I hate you, I'm running away, whatever. You feed them 10 minutes later and then, mommy, I love you. Like these are voices inside of us that are unreasonable, but we don't know because we've never had a passageway to them. We've never had a translator. And so we just repress them reflexively, by the way. You're not thinking about repressing these voices. Your nervous system does it for you.
Mm. So I found your book because of my friend Jaylee. So we both had cancer at the same time. It was about 12 years ago. And I mean, we've both been through the gamut, right? Like of trying all the things. She had way different symptoms than I did. Obviously, we had different cancers, all that sort of stuff. She posted about your book after it came out and she read it. And she said, which is why I bought it. She said that your book, she only wished that she had had your book when she was going through the worst of it. Her pain from her radiation and chemo and all of those things, and then the anxiety and all the things that come with it, right? She said your book changed her life. So I asked her, I said, if you could ask Nicole anything, what would you ask her? And she sent me a question. So she said, if someone intellectually understands their pain, but feels emotionally flat or apathetic when they try to journal, what's your advice to helping them go deeper?
That's a great question. So I have a few things. It's so funny, alignment. I had this exact conversation with somebody this morning. That was going to represent something I'm hopeful about. So basically, it's all in alignment. So basically, there are two ways to look at this. The first way to look at it is just remember your nervous system does not ask your opinion or your permission before it protects you. So if you're feeling flat, there's still an energy there where it's not really safe to feel deeply. So the metaphor I like to use is picture if you rescued a puppy from a shelter and perhaps like it had been abused in its previous home. So you get this puppy home and you are just full of love. Your heart is just open to this puppy. You just want to cuddle it and it's under the bed. It's under the bed in the deepest corner of the bed. And you're sitting there going, oh no, like but how can it not know that I am all love? How does it not? Because it's been hurt. It's been hurt and it doesn't know to trust. So let's say the first day you sit on the floor and you got the treat in your hand. And maybe on the first few days, nothing happens. You don't even see any movement. And let's say like on the fourth day, you see a little nose come out from under the bed, but then go back. And maybe on the sixth day, the dog will come and grab the treat from your hand, but now it's going back under the bed to eat it. I will tell you something. If you show up with an energy of openness, with no urgency, with no need for anything to be a certain way, there will be a day, and it won't be that long, where that puppy is in your lap, eating that treat, and then it's in your lap anywhere else, and then it doesn't leave you alone. And what happens after that change occurs with that trust is it doesn't go back. What we have to understand is we are rewriting our neural pathways. We are evolving in real time when we do this. And so if there's a flat affect, the first thing you need to know is not desiring it to be different. Desire to be different than we are is read by the nervous system as fear, because the urgency to be different is being clocked as dangerous. And so you open your hands, energetically, however this goes, it's okay for me. I'm just going to show up the way you would with a puppy, the way you would with a child, the way you would with anything tender. And then you see what happens. Because there are hacks, right? There are definitely prompts. They're all in the book. The chapter on inner child work will blow your mind. And I could give them to you. But like, really, the answer is we are rewriting everything about the way we interact with ourselves. And that is going to be where you start seeing that shift.
I love that. Thank you, Nicole. Thank you for answering that. So one of the things we like to do here is thank our guests for being here. And so we asked them to choose a registered Canadian charity. And you chose the Canadian Cancer Society. Thank you so much for that. And we're going to make a donation in your name to the Canadian Cancer Society as a thank you for being here. So I really appreciate that.
Thank you. That's the most wonderful thing. I've been interviewed on hundreds of podcasts, and it's the first time I've ever experienced that. So that's wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you for being here. It's like so meaningful. And, you just mentioned inner child. And so I think that when a lot of us hear inner child, we go back to that, oh, woohoo, like, oh, please, like your inner child. And, maybe some of us have heard things like, oh, get over it. You were fine. You're an adult now. You don't need to nurture your inner child. Like, get on with it. You're 50 something years old. Um, we could go so many places with this, but when you're talking to someone about self-compassion and acceptance, these are very difficult things for a lot of people. I would venture to say the majority of people. It is important to nurture that inner child, but most of us don't even know what that means because we've just heard it and judged it right off the top.
It's funny that you say that because the way I open the inner child chapter is like, nobody's worse than me. Nobody thinks things are BS more than me. Nobody is like a harsher critic, like a more like, give me a freaking break. I'm the worst. And so please know that if you hear inner child work and you think, oh my God, cheesy, get me away, you're in good company. I thought that for most of my life, so much so that I didn't even care to understand it. I'm like, oh, it's such garbage. And I am a child of the 70s and 80s, and I love my parents. They were whatever they were, a lot of great, some not. But whatever they were, it was an era of benign neglect. I mean, I was never asked, how are you feeling about something? I was never like, it was dust yourself off. Don't be ridiculous. You're fine. And like, there's value to that. Everything is a balance. But regardless of who raised you and how you were raised, this is what inner child work is. Okay. People love to say the word trigger. Okay. It's like super, it's so of the moment that it's like already canceled because, it's such an annoying word. But the reason, if we're going to like get over our, annoyance with the word, the reason that the word trigger is important for us to pause right here and let's take a look. Let's unpack trigger is because if you're at the grocery store and some guy gives you the side eye in a certain way, bumps you with his cart, walks really fast past you, and you find yourself having a very irritated reaction, like really like, ooh, I'm not going to swear on your podcast, but all the things, okay? What you have to realize is that happens to you about 10 to 20 times a day in different variations. And if it's hysterical, and I use that hyperbolic word purposely, it's historical. So what it means is that if you're having a big reaction to something that like kind of sort of on the scale of all things is not that big of a deal, you are being dragged around by the neck by your inner child. That little bugger is going to relentlessly pull you through life. Every reaction you have, every time that you lose your temper, every time that you cry when you're like, oh God, I don't want to cry about this. Any time that you're so tired, you can't bring yourself to do that thing you have to do, that version of you. So let's say that maybe the child part is problematic. That version of you that has been hurt, that has been wronged, that has been set aside, that has been cast out, that has been ignored, that has been shut down. And we all have so many versions of ourselves. That little person is directing your life. And what I will say to you, if you think inner child work is light, is how's that working for you? Because I would imagine that you want, as the adult person that's done all this work on yourself and you've raised your own kids, whatever the heck you've done, you would like to have autonomy. Like you would like to have agency over your own life. That would be great. And see, you don't realize that until we pause and systematically allow those children, and I put that in quotes, to speak, we have no power over their instructions of how to live because it will come through as a quote trigger and it will make you behave. Because the reason a trigger is called a trigger is it's not light and gentle. It's like pulling a trigger on a gun. You're there. You're all, and so just consider that because it's the truth.
It's yes. I love how's that working?
Threaten you, but it's happening.
No, but I mean, you just described it perfectly. And I think that, we read all the time in books about inner child, or we see this about inner child. And so we have this idea or judgment of it, or whatever it might be, a block about it. But the way you described it, it pulling you around, it's so true. That is so easy to understand. And at the end of the day, a lot of times, this stuff is not easy to understand, but the way you have described all of it is, I mean, you're very, I mean, the way I just love the puppy, you put it in ways that we can go, oh, wait a minute. Yeah, I understand that. I understand how a puppy hides under the bed. And you have to do that with yourself. You have to pull it out of yourself. And it's not easy to do. It's easy to keep pushing it down until you're living a life full of chronic pain and anxiety.
Right. Or not. Or like you're living a life where everything is just a drag and you're like, this sucks. Or you're living a life where you have something that you don't identify as chronic pain because like your skin keeps breaking out. Or, you have like just like a low level of stomach upset where you're like, well, let me try changing my diet or let me try an elimination diet. Or you find yourself on supplements, which don't get me started about supplements just because they can put you in such a financial hole and they, in my experience, are really completely unnecessary unless, of course, you are significantly deficient in a vitamin and, whatever. But the point is that it's just a different paradigm. But that's why I really invite people to like come over to all of my stuff and to sit with us like in the website, which we created like a community hub. We want people to be able to get everything they need because once you start understanding how this stuff comes to life, like I've only given you a handful of examples, it's like just a big wake up and it's a pretty great moment.
It truly is, which is why my friend Jaylee said, I wish she wished you would have wrote this book 10 years ago because it literally has changed her life. Before we go, I try to look on the bright side of things, which is not easy to do sometimes, as we all know. But when you think about the bright side of your work, the bright side of, the people you meet, what is the bright side for you?
Oh my God. I mean, the side is so bright that I have to shade my eyes. I mean, like, it's just I don't even know where to begin because I get like thousands of emails every month and they are from people who I've never met because I've really worked hard over the years to secure different online ways for people to interact. And now that we have an in-person community where I actually do spend time with them, I can think of them as well. But basically, I get these emails and they say sometimes really dark things. I was if I didn't figure this out by Christmas, I didn't know if I could go on, like really, really dark things. And then they say, but I was on a deep dive at 3:00 in the morning. I found your work and I'm writing to tell you that I'm having a baby. I'm writing to tell you that I'm back to work full time. I'm writing to tell you that I've never been happier. I met my partner. Like these are just beautiful, hopeful, bright emails. And the last line is always something along the lines of, I can't believe I didn't know this work was an option for me. So the one thing I will say to you and to every single person who is hearing our voices today is, if this has touched you or moved you, send it to everyone you know, because my greatest fear that goes along with the brightness is I will not reach every person on the planet. I know that not everyone is going to pick up what I'm putting down, but a lot of people will. And I want people to at least know that this work is an option for them, because it makes life quite a bit brighter.
Yeah. I have fallen in love with you during this podcast. You are honestly, I love you.
Love you too.
All your information is on your website. Your podcast, your community, everything is on your website, which is Nicole Sachs, which is SACHS.com, NicoleSachs.com. You're also on Instagram at Nicole Sachs, LCSW. All your information is there too. And of course, your book. It's brand new out. It was out earlier this year. Mind Your Body, a revolutionary program to release chronic pain and anxiety. Highly recommend this book. Nicole, you're incredible. I can't thank you enough for your time and your energy and just your generosity in sharing your work. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks for listening to another episode of TELUS Talks with Tamara Taggart. Be sure to subscribe so you can join us every Tuesday for another conversation. You can also check out our website, telus.com/podcast, and subscribe to our YouTube channel at TELUS Talks.